Workers' hostel from where they believe gunmen fired on ANC leaders yesterday, killing a journalist. The hostel houses migrant workers, some of whom are Zulu supporters of the Inkatha Freedom Party, opponents of the ANC. The police search came as the Ciskei homeland, part of the right-wing Freedom Alliance, abandoned its opposition to forthcoming elections. The move was welcomed by Nelson Mandela. But as our Southern Africa correspondent Judy Aslett reports, the balance of recent events encourages fears over the run-up to the April ballot.
The morning after the night before, and the police internal stability unit drives through the streets of Katlehong. The question of where they were yesterday when the ANC entourage was shot at is still cause for debate. This morning the police are here to pick up bodies. This man was killed overnight as part of the ongoing battle in the townships between Inkatha and the ANC. The people here are in the middle of a low-intensity civil war. Down the road, this house was attacked again last night when vigilantes allegedly demanded the use of the owner's car.
So I just wish everybody could just reach out and have peace in his heart or her heart and stop killing one another.
As a result of yesterday's shooting, the police also today raided this Inkatha hostel. It was from here that the first shots were fired at the ANC delegation, but in the event the raid amounted to too little, too late. One gun was recovered along with several rounds of ammunition, but the question remains of why the police weren't there sooner.
The reality is to search a major hostel which houses thousands of people which may be armed or which may not be armed. That is a major operation, and it endangers the lives of policemen themselves to go into unprepared and for 10 policemen to enter a very possible dangerous place where thousands of people are living. That would have been irresponsible to the lives and the security of the policemen themselves.
The police say it was up to the ANC delegation, led by Cyril Ramaphosa and Joe Slovo, to call for extra police protection when they visit the townships. In the shooting yesterday, one photographer was killed and 2 other journalists wounded. The ANC leaders themselves were quickly bundled away. After the first shots were fired from the hostel, some members of the ANC bodyguard shot back, but they were clearly ill-equipped to properly protect those around them.
The violence in the Eastern did not erupt for the first time yesterday. The police have been deployed over in that area even before Christmas. Generally, the South African police is aware that that area is heavily violent, and therefore one would expect that they would actually be monitoring and policing it with more caution than any other area anywhere else.
Whoever was responsible for yesterday's incident, the fact remains that 2 senior members of South Africa's interim government were shot at, and the police were not there to protect them. This puts a serious question mark over whether South Africa can hold free and fair elections in April amid such high levels of political intolerance. For the African National Congress, this was not the first time their leadership has been threatened. 2 months ago, Nelson Mandela was campaigning in Natal, a known Inkatha stronghold. As he was giving an interview to journalists, shots were fired in his direction from the crowd. A lone gunman was seen running away. This time, the police were on hand. They followed the gunman to nearby houses where they arrested 8 Inkatha supporters. They also confiscated several weapons. It's incidents like this that the ANC says now jeopardizes their election campaign. And Nelson Mandela puts the blame for the violence and intimidation on President de Klerk.
He believes that by allowing this violence to continue amongst Africans, women, children, the aged being slaughtered, he believes that this will frighten away people from the votes, from voting, away from the African National Congress. That is the strategy which Mr. de Klerk is adopting, and that is why he is doing very little to put an end to the violence.
Tonight, after a meeting with the Irish Foreign Minister, President de Klerk denied the accusation. and committed himself to a free and fair election campaign.
Political leaders of all persuasions should be able to visit any part of South Africa without fear of their lives.
But in the townships, there are still fears that the election will not be peaceful. In a secret report, police blame Inkatha, who last week said they would boycott the election for most of the recent killings, particularly in Natal. Members of Inkatha serving on local peace committees say they're convinced the election will not be fair.
Many of us who are working on the peace committees have realised that if the elections are held in April, they most certainly will be unfree and unfair. It's with the levels of violence and intimidation that are throughout the country, the no-go areas where people certainly cannot campaign, there's no chance that we will have free and fair elections.
With less than 4 months before South Africa goes to the polls, that warning may well be ominous. At the very least, security for the political leaders must now be stepped up, or the country will hold elections with a population too terrified to vote. Judy Aslett, Channel 4 News, Johannesburg.